already. I kind of want to address, before we go forward, kind of the elephant in the room. Obviously, a lot of our listeners DM'd me, people tweeted me. I got a lot of text messages. What the hell is going on over at the Westgate with VSiN? And then they see our buddies Mitch and Paul tweeting things. And I kind of stuck my neck out there because I really thought that only one side of the story was being told. And I thought that it was really unfair, for lack of better words. But I kind of wanted you to be able to say your PC principle spiel. Because I know I would love to get the like unfiltered John Murray story, but I just know that's not going to happen.
You know why I can't give the unfiltered story? Because like I blame this on Jay Cornegay. I have a corporate job. Like think about how ridiculous that sounds, but like I just moved out to Vegas just to like party and bet on sports, and Jay just kept promoting me to the point where like I can't leave, and now I've got this corporate job, and I can't go wade into the cesspool that is gambling Twitter with all these ignorant people that have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. I can't do that.
You're right. Hell, I was only like ankle deep, and I just get insane comments like that. I'm sleeping with everybody at the Westgate, which is why I have their back. And I'm like, you guys don't know me at all. But okay, it is just funny because that's just the go-to trolls when they don't have a rational answer for why something doesn't make sense to them. And all I was trying to do was ask questions like, well, why aren't we hearing the other side of the story? I saw you Wednesday night, everything was kosher. Sometime on Thursday afternoon, all hell's breaking loose on Twitter. So it was like, I didn't really get your full story. But when I started asking around and asking people like, hey, what's going on here? This doesn't make sense. Because myself, a responsible adult, I know that sounds very funny to put in a complete sentence.
In that sentence, go ahead.
I had 2 futures bets. One on the Padres. So I asked the guys over at Circa, is this action? Yeah. And I had one on the White Sox. So I asked the guys over at Caesars, is this action? And I guess I feel like other responsible adults should do the same. And I got a lot of people in our industry that said, yeah, I absolutely checked on my tickets.
I guess I'm just like, one of the reasons I haven't commented on it, at least publicly, was nobody invited me to. I saw a bunch of people on Twitter saying, hey, how come you or Jay Cornegay isn't going on a numbers game? And I was like, well, and Jay said the same thing. I never got asked to. All those people have my phone number. All those people know where I work. Nobody ever asked me to go on. I'm not in charge of scheduling the talent or the guests for that show. So that would be one reason why I haven't commented, is nobody asked me. And then the other reason is I'm just baffled by the whole thing. Like I can't wrap my head around how it's possible. And everybody knows what we're talking about, so I'll just name him. I'm not going to insult everybody by pretending like we're talking about Gill from VSiN. If you had asked us, our risk team 2 weeks ago, who do you think is the most knowledgeable radio host in Las Vegas about sports betting? I think the first name out of their mouths would have been Gill Alexander. If he wasn't the first name, he would have been in the top 3. He's a guy we all respect. We all know how sharp he is, how smart he is, how well-versed he is. And we're supposed to believe that he made a bet that was potentially worth $30,000 on an event that was postponed by 4 months due to a global pandemic. And he has my cell phone number, and he has Jay's cell phone number, and he didn't even ask us about it. That's what I'm supposed to believe, that story. And there are people out there that believe that story. If I heard that story and it was told about another sports book, I would say that is impossible. That there has to be more to the story. That can't be what it is. Because I know how smart Gill is. I know Gill is a stickler for the rules. Gill talks on his show about knowing the rules, check the rules. I've heard him with the South Point guys talking about house rules for win totals on his show. But he didn't think to ask me or Jay. He has our phone numbers.
I mean, I'm not allowed to bet at the Westgate, but I had a buddy that had some baseball futures with you guys and said, hey, who do I need to get a hold of at the Westgate to figure this out? And I said, no problem. Let me send a text.
Well, I had, so we got the news on March 17th that the French Open was postponed. And our house rules were the event must be played within 8 days for action. Jeff Sherman refunded the men's and the women's French Open. There were 65 tickets. They were all refunded on March 17th. You know, these stories acting like Gill came into the book last week and tried to cash his ticket and we huddled and said, no, it's a refund. No, we refunded that ticket on March 17th, guys. That's absurd.
So one of the arguments that I heard on Twitter was, well, the NBA futures got paid out. The NHL futures are going to get paid out. Can you explain what the difference is between?
Well, you can say you don't like our rules. I mean, I can see that. It's just the bottom line is those were our rules. Our rules were it has to be played within 8 days for action.
But the NBA championship, for example, if I bet it back in November.
It was all bets are action.
Okay.
NBA win totals were 82 games for action. So there were some people that bet the Warriors under wins. That was a great bet.
Yeah.
They got a refund because it had to be 82 games for action. And guess what? Those people were pissed off. But they got a refund. There were people that bet the Thunder that made the playoffs at 9-1. Had to be 82 games for action. They got a refund. They were mad. You just didn't hear about it because none of these people have a radio show.
Or a big Twitter following. Yeah.
There were thousands and thousands of tickets that were refunded. I mean, we closed the casino on March 17th, and after we closed, we all went into lockdown. Your governor closed us down that same night, just a coincidence. But one of the main things that I was doing while I was quarantined at my house was answering people's questions. People reached out to me on Twitter. People DM me. People reached out to me through friends of mine like you. People emailed the Westgate. And the Westgate forwarded the emails to me, and I would actually call them from my home, my house phone, the house phone you love to make fun of. I would just call the guy and be like, tell me your bets, and I'll walk you through all of them. And some of them would be like, hey, thanks a lot. I listened to you on VSiN. I'm a fan. I'd be like, oh, no, well, thanks, man. These are VSiN listeners that are contacting the Westgate to get to me to ask me the question about their bets. And the host of the VSiN show that has my cell phone number doesn't even ask me. I mean, one of the reasons I haven't really commented on it is because I'm still trying to wrap my mind around how it's even possible. How is that even?
On Twitter, things didn't add up, and everybody's like, "Well, you're speculating this, or you're speculating that," and I'm like, "I just have questions. This makes me draw certain conclusions because I use cognitive thinking skills like an adult, and I'm like, this doesn't add up. So what am I missing here?"
It sucks. The thing that bothers me the most about it, because everybody loses in this situation. Everybody's a loser in this situation, and it was so easily avoidable. I remember I wasn't in the book on Tuesday. Jay calls me and he's like, hey, Gill's here. Gill Alexander here's got a ticket. And I my heart sank, and I went and I looked at my text messages from Gill, and I was like, please don't tell me he asked me about this bet. And I just blew him off. He and I spoke 2 times over the summer. He asked me he was thinking about making a bet on something else. He never asked me about any refunds. Just to clarify, I'm not saying he asked me about, is this a refund or that on another sport? He didn't. He asked me about a bet he was thinking about making. And then we talked briefly. We went back and forth, just like how you been in quarantine, stuff like that. And we talked for like 15 minutes. Maybe one more text. Oh, hey, by the way, I've got this bet on the French Open. Is it still action? Oh, dude, no, we refunded it in March. We set up a new pool. No worries. Just come on in. You can bet it again. That's a 15-second interaction.
Can I ask you, did the odds change that drastically the second time around?
I asked Jeff that because I don't follow tennis.
Me neither.
He said that when he put it back up, the market on her had gone from 30 to 25. So he put up 25. Okay. So, yeah, the market had changed a little bit. But
nothing significant. It's not like she went from 30 to 1 to 10 to 1.
Oh, no. And just a 15-second interaction, and we could have known. I mean, we could have avoided this whole thing. Gill even came into the book in June and made another bet on another event. He was at the counter. Just asked the teller, hey, can I speak to the manager? And I would have come out from my office and been like, hey, what's up, dude?
Yeah.
And we could have there.
You would have refunded him, and he could have rebet it.
Right there. Refunded his ticket, rewrote his bet. It sucks because I don't have any problem with Gill, and I'm just upset about this whole thing. The only other thing I want to say is I keep hearing this story about how every other book paid him. As far as I know, the only books in town that had the French Open up pre-pandemic were us, Boyd. We talked to the director at Boyd. he said that their rules were must be played within 7 days for action. So they refunded all the bets. They didn't have many bets. And William Hill and their rules were whenever played. So all William Hill did was follow their rules. All we did was follow our rules. That's how it works when you're in a regulated environment. I see all these people on Twitter, they know gambling, they know sports betting. They don't know anything about running a sports book in a regulated environment like Nevada. So when they tweet,
heaven forbid, none of these guys know anything about running a sports book in Nevada gaming regulations, huh?
When I go to gaming and there's a gaming case, the first question they're going to ask me is, did you apply the same rules to everybody? And if I say no, then the case is over. I lost the case right there. You know, the one thing that's silly about this whole thing is acting like it's acting like this is an offshore bet where the only avenue you have is to just bash them on social media. Everybody has the right to go to gaming and appeal. And I see people on Twitter, they're like, oh, gaming always sides with the casinos. Have any of those people ever been in a gaming case? I've been in lots of them. We've lost.
I hope I never have to go to gaming ever. It sounds miserable.
Cases, we've appealed some cases. We've won some cases. We've had the guest appeal to us. We go back and forth. The people that are talking about this, they know absolutely nothing about what they're talking about. And they're just spreading ignorant misinformation. And that's why I try not to get into that sandbox on Twitter. And
that makes sense.
And I'll give you a final thought on this. You should all know this. Everybody should know this. The Masters is next month. We are one of like 4 or 5 books in Nevada that had this same rule for the Masters. Refunded all those tickets back in March, back in April. Should check the rules if you have a Masters bet in Nevada. Because we were the only one that had that rule other than Boyd that had French Open wagering pre-pandemic. If the Masters had come first, this could have come anywhere. This could happen at any sports book in town. They all had this rule. So I just want people to think about that next month when like Dustin Johnson or Brooks Koepka wins the Masters and somebody posts a ticket that was refunded on Twitter. Is everybody going to be like, oh, they're crooks?
Or of course they are.
Or they
just follow along blindly like sheep because they don't know any better.
Following its rules. That's the only option you have in a regulated environment. If we paid Gill and we didn't pay the thousands of other people that got refunded, that would be the egregious thing. That would be the thing that should have people outraged.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I pay this guy just because my company has a business relationship with his company after I refunded 1,000 other people. Isn't that the egregious thing to do?
Yeah, I would say so. I would absolutely say so. Yeah, that would probably piss me off more than anything. I think it's just kind of, you're right. I think my personal opinion, he thought he could go on his show, bash you guys, and somehow get his ticket cashed because you didn't want bad PR. I mean, that's what everybody's excuse was, is like, this is going to cost them more in this than PR. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. You can't, there's probably 1,500, 2,000 other tickets you guys have voided.
If we stopped following our house rules, it would cost us a lot more than $30,000. Then we would have to pay every single person that we refunded based on a house rule. Every person could go to gaming and say, hey, they paid this radio show host. They got to pay me too.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I would do.
The damages could be in the millions. As long as you stay within your house rules and you stick to your house rules, I think you're going to be pretty safe.